howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to my workshop. I'm Jeff, and you're in JR's workshop. And it is, what day is today? Wednesday, March 31st. Tomorrow is April Fool's Day, April 1st. Almost tax time, but I think they pushed that back. So if you need it, I guess they've got that going for you. It's a little bit of a rainy looking day out today, so it's a good day to be in the shop. And I've got a couple of things that I'm going to go over today, and I'm going to check my computer just to make sure everybody's getting their feed here, because wow, why is this stream is like way behind the times here, but that's okay. Hopefully that's just my computer that's way far behind. Everybody else looks good, so I think we're good. I've got a couple of things to go through in the shop today that I'm going to share with you. Some procedures, still working diligently on our bases here. So sewing machine bases, still working hard on these things. Oh, yeah, I forgot I made one without the logo on. I was like, where's the logo? I screwed up. No, I didn't. I didn't screw up. That one just does not have one. This one has the logo in front, so you can see that on there. A little logo, looks sweet. Anyway, we had previously put these in clamps and clamped these down so that this middle divider right here was glued in place. This one has a little extra space in there. I'm not happy about that, but we will deal with that. But what I do need to do today is get these flattened down. So we're going to get the hand plane out, and this is just a little proud of the rest of the base, which is the way I intended, so that I could then by hand take these down with the hand plane and get them perfectly flush with the top. So that is one thing that we're going to be doing. Another thing, we last week we're going to make lids for those dividers. So, well, for not dividers, but for this compartment needs a lid. And the way that I do that is that I take wood and I cut it down to about 1/4 of an inch thick, and then I'd make a rabbet cut in here as a place for a shelf for it, the lid to sit into, and then that gets flushed down to the top as well. In order to make those lids, we had to do some resawing on Monday, taking some wood and splitting it like this, and then we book match it, and then we take those larger pieces that we've book matched and then size those to the opening that is there that we're going to make with the router table and the rabbeting bit. So when I did that, just real quick, that's what this, if you can see these clamps right here on the table right here, the wood itself, when I did the resawing process on the bandsaw and it opened up, and it was a pretty nice job that I did there. I used my 1/2 inch blade, my resaw blade. But what happens is the wood actually, it kind of opened up a little bit. There's pressure and forces in that wood that when you release it, it's like, and it does some weird things sometimes. I clamped that to my work table for, let's see, Wednesday afternoon. It's been on here ever since. I did do one thing if you were here Wednesday afternoon and you were watching, and I clamped it down. I actually took the pieces and flipped them so that the spring was moving up and down. Before I had it so that the opening, you could press it like a spring like this. I did, after a day, turn them, and so hopefully having it down removed some. It's not going to remove all of it. If I wanted to, I'd probably, if I wet this thing all down, if I wet the wood down and then did this and left it for like a week, it would probably be okay. For this purpose, because I'm going to cut them into shorter lengths, it isn't as bad that they have a little bit of a bend to them, but I wanted to minimize as much as I could, and that's what the clamping's for. So we're going to take these out of the clamps, and then we're going to stick them in some clamps but we're going to basically be jointing them together and creating a book match top for the, that's a long way around, wasn't it? Long way to get there. I'm going to be making the lids for the storage compartments with these pieces of wood. I have one already in the clamps. I had to, this is not long enough. I think this is like 22 inches or so. I need 4 of them. So obviously they're a little over 7 inches long. That means that I could not get a 4th one out of this one. I found another piece of wood, did the same thing to that. It's actually already in the clamps. So we can take that one out of the clamps and start working on flattening that while we get this one in the clamps. So that's another thing we're going to do is we're going to take these out. We're going to put them in clamps and book match them. We're going to take the other ones out. We're going to start flattening those, and I will do that with a hand plane for some of the stuff. And the big thing is for these, I can't really size them to their correct size until I finish making the rabbet cuts in the bases. So it's kind of like, okay, what are we going to do first kind of thing. So that's kind of where we're at. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Before I kick into shop stuff, like actual woodworking-y stuff, I wanted to share something with you all. Just a couple of wood shop related things. First is I got my latest issue of Wood Magazine. I just renewed my subscription. I subscribe, basically, I think it's like a do 2 years, get one free kind of thing. I think that's what it works out to. And if you buy these individually, they're like $9 a copy. I mean, magazine prices are through the roof, which is why I usually buy them in a bundle like that, and then you get much more of your money's worth. This is for the general woodworker. I will say this, for the general woodworker, this is probably the best magazine out there. There are others. Fine Woodworking is a great magazine. Woodcraft makes a great magazine. Those are, I find those to be a little bit more of the fine art, fine furniture, artisan type crafty things. Not that they don't have any useful information for the regular woodworker, which is what I consider myself to be, but a lot of artisan type stuff, a lot of really fine furniture. Obviously, one of them is called Fine Woodworking, so you could take that to mean what it's about. But for the general woodworker, someone who has, you know, a simple shop like mine, you're looking to upgrade tools, you're looking to make cabinets, you're looking to do craft things, you're looking to make intermediate to maybe higher level projects, but even some lower level ones. This thing is just so packed full of stuff. It really is a great publication. I have nothing to do with them. This is a totally unsolicited referral on my part, but I get a lot of information out of these, whether it's from tool reviews. The other day I showed you, and I actually made a video about my air cleaner that I made, which I got from the Wood Magazine, the idea from there. Other things that I've done, making some of my cabinets and such, I've gotten ideas on joinery and other things from that. So I just find this to be a super useful magazine. So if you've never checked out a Wood Magazine before, I highly advise it. Maybe pick one up, spend the $9, see if you like it. I'm betting you will, and then you'll want to pop for it. Now, like I said, usually, I don't think maybe there's a card in here. There may not be a card in this one because I get these mailed to me, but you know how they have subscription cards in there and stuff, and a lot of them will have not only like the magazine, but they have some bonus publications. I won't call them books. They're as thin as this, but making shop cabinets or doing other things or useful tips and things like that that are thrown in with your subscription. But anyway, yeah, so Wood Magazine, just super jam-packed full of stuff. It's not a really thick magazine. I mean, how many pages is this thing? It's like 85 pages. All right, it's not super thick, but it's also not crammed with, a lot of them are crammed with ads in the back. Like you'll have like 10 pages of ads. There's no ads in this. I mean, very few, if any, ads in this thing. It is just all full of information and useful tips and tools and just great stuff. Cut lists, like they'll put projects in here and they'll put entire cut lists and directions and everything in here. So if you're looking to make some projects, like I said, these things have some amazing things in here. There's one about making a book match veneer to put on top of a cabinet. I mean, if you've never done book match veneers before, step by step, they break it down. Anyway, that's enough about Wood Magazine, except to say that I highly recommend, if you're just a good old woodworker and you want to increase your knowledge or check out some new information or see how other people are doing things, great magazine. All right, what else we got here? Oh, so I made these. They're not finished staining yet. I have to do the back, and then I have to stain the insides of these. These are drawers to go on the little antique children's sewing machine table that I'm working on. This is the original drawer right here. Let me go to the B cam. So you can see this is the original drawer right here. I have to actually look. And this is the drawer that I made for it to be a replacement. The other one, this one's okay, but it kind of, the other one, their little ledge right here cracked off and everything else, and it was easier to just make a new one than it was to replace the pieces that were broken on this one. And I think it did a pretty good job of reproducing this. I mean, that looks pretty good. You even got the color pretty close, so I'm pretty happy with that. The only thing I didn't do, these have these little knob handles on them, and I could try to do, I could make these on my lathe, but it just seems like such a, I don't know, such a task for such a tiny little handle, right? I mean, it's super tiny. So I started scouring the interwebs and looking for something I could use as a handle for my drawers, because there's two drawers. And I'm gonna just rip this whole thing up here. I happened across this little set. I'm really kind of pleased about these. So they're kind of a brushed bronze, kind of a aged bronze look to them, which I think will fit in nicely with, so let me show you. So this is what I came up with. It's just a, whoop, there we go. It's a tiny little drawer pull, which will fit on top like that. So I thought those were really, really cool looking, and they weren't very expensive. And the thing I liked most about it is that it came with a lot of hardware, and there's different styles of screws and such in here. I think some different sizes. So it has multiple sizes of screws in here, which is great because then I can find just the one that I need for this. I think these were made for jewelry boxes and such, small jewelry box type drawer pulls or whatever. I think I got these on Amazon is where I found these, of course, because, it's where you find things. I did look at a couple places. I looked at Rockler and such. Most of the drawer pulls they had were much larger drawer pulls, or they were like really super fancy brass. And that's not really what I was after. These are, like I said, it's kind of like that aged vintage bronze look. And it had the 3 different size screws. This was a great find for me. So I'm very excited about that. I just wanted to share those with you. And then I can make this one look like that. Now, my drawers are a little shorter than this one, but that's okay. I mean, at the end of the day, pretty nice. Pretty happy with myself on those drawers. And I need to really get that project wrapped up and finished. And now that I've got those, I think I can move forward, get that thing finished. And let's go back to A cam here. Get that finished, and that'll be nice to get that done. So the lady I'm making it for, she's a friend of the family, and she's a sweet person, and she's way too patient because I've had this thing for a long time, and she's really patient and such. So I really want it to turn out really well when it's done, so that it was worth her wait. Hopefully it will be. I think so. But yeah, she's super patient, and she just keeps dropping things off for me to work on, and I'm like, okay, I'll get to it one day, I promise. Like I said, this is why I don't take on special orders usually, because yeah, my attention span is like a gnat. It's really small, and I like to move on to other things and do stuff, and so, but I need to get that done. But anyway, I want to share those little handles with you. Those were really fun. Amazon does have some hardware stuff, and sometimes I like to use like Rockler, and I like to, but the drop down table that I made, the whatever I call it, knockdown table, the brass hinges that I got for that thing, I found them in other resources, but they were almost twice as much. And I'm just like, you know, the thing's already expensive enough. I'm trying to cut some corners to add value and pass on savings to whoever buys it. So if I can shave off $8 a hinge or $7 a hinge, I'll go Amazon. I know. And you know, the reality is most of that stuff's coming from the same place. It really is. So unless it says like, you know, made in the USA on there or something, usually it's all coming from the same place. All right, let us move forward and do stuff. By the way, just if you are watching, I do have my chat windows open. I am streaming live on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. I don't know if anybody has ever actually watched on Twitch because it's mostly gamers and such. But anyway, I am on Twitch. So if you are in any of those locations and you have a question, a comment, a suggestion, whatever it may be, feel free to drop that into the live comment section on whatever platform you're watching. If you're on Facebook, I think you have to expand the video window full screen and then it'll pop the comment on the side. If you're watching on YouTube, it's automatically there. If I have a chat window, I think for the live streams it does that. And Twitch obviously does the same thing because that's kind of their thing anyway. But I do have that going on. If you look in the description, I pretty much have all of my socials in the description. So if you want to check out any like Instagram and my Facebook group and my, I don't know what else I've got going on. Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, all my linkage down in the description. I also have links to some of the tools that I use just to let you know that some of them are from brand stores like Lowe's, because that's like my table saw. It's the only place that table saw is sold is at Lowe's. Other things are from Amazon. If it comes from Amazon, that's an affiliate link. So if you decide to buy using that link, it doesn't add anything to your price, but it does throw a little penny or two into my pocket, which is awesome. So if you do that, thank you very much. All right. All that being said, oh, and if you are watching or whatever and you want to know when I do this stuff, hit the follow button or the subscribe button, whichever platform you're using. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe, hit the little bell notification. It'll let you know when I go live. If you are on Facebook, you can follow the page that I'm on, JR's Woodshop. You can follow that. Twitch, same thing. You can follow. You don't have to subscribe. It costs money to subscribe on Twitch. So, but you know, that's money that would go to me. So if you want to, actually, I don't actually get anything if you subscribe because I am not a partner on Twitch. Twitch is weird. Okie dokie, let's unclamp this and see how it looks as far as, let me see what this cam looks like. Yeah, it's good. We're gonna unclamp this, get these gear clamps off first. These are great little clamps. These are Jorgensen gear clamps. And they have a handle here so you can get some good clamping power on these things. So I love those. Really nice for clamping things down. I use them a lot for my work table here when I clamp things to the surface here. And just a regular F clamp here in the middle. I got to figure out which righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Okay, it's upside down, so I'm kind of backwards here. So let me get this clamp off. This is just a little Bessie F clamp on here in the middle. And let's see how we did. And you notice that, ooh, it's pretty rocky like that, right? So let's flip it over and see how much. Yeah, I didn't get well, I got some of the bend out of there. And I will hold it up here and let you see. There is, notice that big gap right there in the middle? It's more apparent when I squeeze. So if I squeeze, you'll see there is still a gap in there. And that basically comes because I took this piece of wood and I split it right down the middle. And when I did that, all that tension in that wood it does that. It makes it warp. I've had some that have like long boards that have done this like 6 inches worth of warp after cutting it, which is really disappointing when you're wanting a nice long thin piece of wood and you end up with one that looks more like a pretzel. But this is very usable. I can do this, not a problem. And what we're looking for here is to book match these. And if you recall, the book match is when I take this piece of wood, I open it up, and then hopefully you can see that the pattern kind of comes together nicely in the middle and creates a really cool pattern, which we will put right down the middle of the lid, and it gives a nice asymmetrical book match look to the lids. All right, I've got these out of the clamps. Let me get these other ones over here. A camera over there. I don't have a camera over there. Let me just grab this. Oh, mercy. So these are my very large, switch cameras here. So these are my very large clamps. These are my Bessie parallel clamps. And I use these whenever I'm doing glue ups on panels or cutting boards or anything where I'm wanting things to stay flat and apply even pressure across the face. These are what I use because they just do an amazing job. All right, and we're going to use these in just a minute because we're going to glue this long piece that I just took out of the clamps. We're going to glue that together. But let me set these aside for the moment so that they don't interfere with what we're doing here. I can show you. This one right here just got glued up, and I do have some squeeze out on the bottom, which will come off with a scraper or a chisel. And then this top is not completely even and flat. I mean, I would like to be able to get a super exact resaw going, but with my saw, this is about as close as I can expect. So I've got some of these are a little bit larger, like a 1/16 of an inch above the surface here, but the back is pretty flat, and that is what I was aiming for. And you can see on the back here, you can see that really cool kind of book match look to it. So the grain kind of matches and meets in the middle here, and I just think it's a really cool look. So what I will do with this one is scrape that off so that it will sit flat, because right now it's a little wobbly because of the glue on the back. But if I scrape that off, I can either use a chisel or a scraper or even a block plane. I don't like using my block plane for the glue sometimes because I think it dulls my plane a little faster than I want it to. How am I looking on space here? Maybe right there might work. Yeah, let me tell you what, let's get this glue off of here. Let me go grab my scraper real quick. And scrapers you don't have to have a scraper. Sometimes I find them to be effective, sometimes not. But it's always something that I try to start with. This is a scraper right here. I think I got this at Home Depot or whatever for a few bucks. It's not much. Has a little blade right there in front. So this part right here is your scraper part. You can actually sharpen that. You can run it on sandpaper. You can run it on a sharpening stone or whatever. Mine's not super sharp. I don't think it needs to be, but you can just kind of scrape it across. Now, another thing that I do have is a cabinet scraper, and I will employ a cabinet scraper to do the same thing. But you can see I'm starting to get some of that glue off of here. And really what I'm looking for is to just make sure this is flat. So I really want to just get the bulk of this glue off of here. Let me try this way, so that this thing sits pretty flat on my workbench, because when I start to run a plane over the top of it, I don't want it wobbling a lot. That's not bad. Yeah, it's not bad. Now this is a fairly thin piece of wood, so it's kind of hard to clamp down. Let me get rid of all this stuff. It's hard to clamp down and do any work on this. And I have an uneven edge here. I'm thinking it might be easier if I just square this edge up really quickly. And I might, as you can see, it's not, if you look here, this end is longer than this end. That's basically what I'm saying. I think if I take this over and just quickly square one end up over at my miter saw, that might make life a little easier for me. I have a, oh, hang on. I have a bench stop that I use, if I can find it in here, that I use for my dog holes that is actually really super thin. I made this. This is like, I don't know, a piece of oak and some oak dowel and some screws in the top to hold it. But it's really thin. It's about, I don't know, less than a quarter of an inch. So maybe 3/16 or so thick. And what I can do with this is place this in my dog holes, so it's spaced to evenly go in the dog holes, and it gives me a stop that I can push against and plane against, and it holds it and keeps the piece of wood from moving around. Now, the problem with this is that it's not going to sit flat against there because one end is longer. I mean, if I was going this way, it'd be fine, but that is just a little wonky. So I might just go take a cut off of this really quick. The other thing I want to look at is my grain direction. The problem with book matching is that you create opposite grain directions when you're going to be running this through a any sort of flattening, either with a hand plane or whatever. On this side, the grain is running uphill like this, but if I flip it around this way, the grain is running this way. So it's up here and down here. So they're kind of going here like that. They're going opposite directions, right? So it's running, if you look at the way my hands are angled, that's the way the grain is running. So the grain is running like this on either side. And when you're trying to run a plane across there, I think I talked about this before, if you're running a plane into the grain that's going up, it's going to catch those fibers and tear and pull. That's kind of the way. It's like rubbing your hand opposite direction of the back of a cat or a dog, where it just runs against the fur, and that can create tear out on your wood. So you always want to kind of plane with those things going down so that you're shaving off, not pulling up. Problem is, when you book match, you're now reversing the grain, and so they run in opposite directions. So you have to be more careful when you're doing something like this. This is where I wish I had a drum sander, because a drum sander would be really, I used to have one, but it just didn't do it for me. I want to get a new one at some point in time, but this is the perfect kind of thing that you'd run through a drum sander. You can put in a really nice fine piece of paper or sandpaper on your drum and level these things down, and yeah, they're really, really nice to have. I'm just going to run this through my saw really quick and just cut an edge off. I'm not even going to worry about dust collection or anything else, because I'm just making a really quick small cut. Even though I should set everything up, basically all I'm going to do is attach my power, and I'm going to just cut this edge off really quickly, just to get this thing. I need a flat edge, and I'll probably do it on both sides. So let me loosen this up. I will grab my ears though, because it's loud. So here, I'll pop this on. There we go. All right. I'm just going to square these edges off really quickly here. It's nothing pretty, just enough to make these fit against that stop. And I'm going to do this edge too, in case I have to flip it around. All right, that's the end of that. Lots of dust. Dust everywhere. But as you can see now, hopefully, this thing is nice and flat and flush against there. So when I'm running a plane against it, I will at least get a nice flush push against there, and that will hold it a little bit more. I would have a hard time putting a clamp in against this side right here, just because this is very low. The other thing I could do, how wide is this thing? How wide are you? Are you 6 inches? So this is less than 6 inches. So the one thing I could do is I could take this over to my jointer and just run it through really quickly on the jointer, just to kind of take some of this roughness off. It's not gonna make it parallel to this side. That's not what a jointer does. You would need to run it through a planer. I don't want to pull the planer out. Do I want to pull the planer out? I don't know. I think hand planing is the way to go with these. But I might run the jointer across this backside really quickly because this is less than 6 inches. I have a 6-inch wide jointer. So this is less than 6 inches. And I might do it really quickly just to give that a nice super flat surface to work with. So let's go over there. I don't have a camera set up for it yet. What's this camera looking at here? What are you looking at, camera? Okay, that's looking over there at the bandsaw. Well, we can point it over here. Move my dust separator over. Let's point this over at my jointer really quickly. We're just gonna zip. There it is. There's the jointer. We'll zoom out a little bit. So there's the jointer. And we will just run this through the jointer. I'm just gonna run the flat edge that I took most of that stuff, the glue, squeeze out on. You can see there's still some in here. And it's pretty flat across here, but it's not perfectly flat. There's just a little bit of difference in the two sides. And I figure if I can start with a really flat surface, that puts me ahead of the game. So I will turn this on. I don't know which way to run this. Who knows? Because like I said, I've got a problem with the grain alternating. So I'm going to go super slow and take a really light pass on this. In fact, I'm gonna lower my cut. It's pretty low right now, but I'm gonna lower it even more because I just want to take a really slim cut off of this thing. All right, let's see what we can get here. Another one? One more ought to do it. Okay, that's pretty good. I got a tiny bit of tear out on one side here, not much. Right here, just a little bit, but you can see that that's now really flat, which is why I wanted to take it to the jointer first. Yeah, not bad. Now, depth-wise on these things, I'm going to go about 1/4 of an inch deep on my rabbit, which makes this not a very thick piece of wood, but this is over 1/4 of an inch, and that means that I have plenty of wood that I can lose in an effort to get this thing down to the size I need. In fact, I have this set up for 1/4 of an inch right here, and you can see that you can see how much I have over it, which is about an 1/8 of an inch, depending on where I'm at. So maybe a little less than an 1/8. So I have a lot of room here to work with. But I do have one nice flat surface to start with. And that is a good thing. All right. I tell you what, before we get going on that, let's go ahead and glue this other one up because timing the clamps, it just takes a while. And that way we can get the glue rolling and get some clamping force on this thing. So let's go to this camera, which is basically the same view you're just looking at. But we're going to change that. I'm going to put it over here and show you how I'm going to clamp this panel up. So a lot of moving around today. Let's move over here. I do most of this on my table saw. I kind of multi-purpose my stuff around here, and you know, when you have limited work surfaces, you just do them where you can. So let me move this out of the way. These clamps out of the way, and then we can go ahead and clamp. Now I'm not going to need these clamps for doing the stuff. I'm going to use the big Bessie clamps that you see up there on the top of the table saw. I will be using those because, like I said, you want to get really good parallel clamping force when you're doing any sort of panel joinery, which that's kind of what this is I'm making a panel. Oh, actually, you know, the first thing I need to do is, let me check this really quick. A lot of times when you go to glue something up like this, I mean, it's easy to find where they would match, but you're not going to get a good edge. So if I hold this up to the light and look, yeah, see, you can't see it, but I can see light through here. When I look through, I can see light coming through here, which means that I need to basically clean these edges so that they match, so I can get a really good press together so there's no gaps in there. And the easiest way for me to do that is actually on the jointer. What I'll do is take these, I'm going to glue them this way, but I'm going to take them and turn them back to back. I'm going to run them through the jointer, and that will basically offset any differences between the two so that when I go to join them, they should match up perfectly. So let me change that around a little bit. Let's go, we're going to go back over here to the jointer. So that would be this camera right there. We're going to go back to the jointer, and we're going to put these back to back on here, and I'm going to basically run these through. Now I need to make sure the area that I'm going to join, there we go. So I'm going to join this area right here, this right along this line. These are where they're going to be glued. So I want to turn these back to back and then run this edge with them back to back, and that should offset any difference in these things. I'm going to raise this back up just a hair. Wrong way. There we go. Okay, let's run this through. And that should give me a nice tight line. Oh, that's really, let's see. Yeah, I see no light passing. Do I see no light? Well, maybe, actually, there's just a little bit. I'm going to make one more pass because it was very light. I'm going to make one more pass here. Let's try it one more time. All right, that should be perfect. And it is very clean. I see no light coming through now. So when I glue this together, that'll give me a really nice joint. All right, let me grab my glue. We'll switch cameras really quick and slather some glue on here. Now, the one thing I tell you all the time, it's like, oh, I use as little glue as I possibly can, which is true. The exception to that usually is when I'm doing any sort of panel jointing, be it for cutting boards or just making a wider board for a panel. I usually try to use enough glue that the joint is not going to be what we call glue starved. So I'm going to set these up. The other thing I'm going to do is get my tape. I'm gonna get some tape. And the reason I need some tape is that these clamps have very fine, they've got very fine teeth on them. And if you don't cover the space where the glue will squeeze out, it'll get embedded in here, and it's just a pain in the rear to get it off there. So I find if I just put a little piece of if I put a little piece of tape over top of that joint area where the two pieces come together, it's enough to keep any glue from getting onto the clamp itself, and that makes my life so much better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just figure out where that is on here and then just put a piece of tape underneath. It doesn't interfere with the ability to clamp because the clamping from the gear mechanisms and such comes from way out here, not where I'm putting the piece of tape. This piece of tape just covers up where the squeeze out comes, and so it just needs to cover and span across both pieces of wood there. It's not overly complicated though. And you know what might actually be good is if I turn this camera right here. See how this one looks if I turn it down here. Is that really wide right there? There we go. All right. Yeah, let's switch to this camera real quick. How's that? There we go. So you can see that I just put a piece of tape right here, and that in essence is just going to go where the edge meets up, and that, like I said, just keeps the squeeze out from coming out there. So let's see. That's right. Yeah. And then obviously they're not going to be this close together either. So I am going to spread these out so that they're fairly even. I'm trying to get as much even clamping force across here as I possibly can. And let me grab these little, it has these little feet on here that if I pull them up, kind of keeps these standing upright. And that'll be pretty good. So what I usually do is as I'm clamping these down, I will put force down on the boards because we have a nice flat bottom here. Ouch. We have a nice flat bottom here. So I just apply enough force to hold these two pieces down. So we'll use that bottom as a reference against this piece of bar right here. And that hopefully should give me enough flatness when I glue these things. All right, we're in good shape there. I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on. And that's not really overly complicated. I'm just going to run a bead of glue, pretty thin bead right here for right now, because I'm going to take my finger and smooth it out. Best glue spreader in the world right here. And just flatten it out, get that glue spread evenly across the whole thing. You don't want any areas where there is no glue. So just make sure it's spread nice and even, just like this. And then any extra you can kind of squeegee off with your finger there a little bit. And I do have a little paper towel here. Love my little blue paper towels. All right, let's go ahead and get this. Now, what I'm trying to do also is get my pattern where I want it to line up so that it looks kind of cool. So kind of like that. And I think what I might do is this middle one right here. I'm going to push this in. Now I'm going to push this down, like I said, and apply pressure so that that is using this bar as a reference to keep it flat on the bottom. And I just tighten this clamp up. I'm not crazy cranking down on it. I'm just applying some pressure to get it closed and to hold in place. I'm going to come over here. And you want to have, this is the end, you want to pull this towards your workpiece and then slide the top of these in like that. Let me push this down. Just get a little bit more pressure there. And then the last one right here, I'm going to push this in. Push this down. And then clamp it closed. And I have nice even glue squeeze out all across the surface here. It's not a ton. I didn't use a ton of glue on there, but there is glue squeeze out coming out all the way across. And you want to make sure that you've got squeeze out. If you're going to have some, you should see it all the way across If there's places where you're not getting any, you didn't have an even application of stuff. And I'm just gonna make sure these are firmed down. And that's all there is to gluing that up. I mean, it's, if you wanna look at the back side here, looks like this. And you can see that nice pattern that we're making there. And then a little minimal amount of glue squeeze out. So that'll clean it really well. But the other thing I could check is that I'm pretty flat across here, and it feels like it's pretty flat going across here. So that, I think, will work. And then I can just set this aside. It doesn't need to be in the way. I can just stand it up. That's what I like about the Bessies too, is you can just stand them up and get them out of your way. And that's that. All right. All right, we are in the glue, so that's good. We can turn our attention to now working on a couple of different things. I can do this. I can do this. What do I want to do now? Let's skip away from the lids for just a minute. Let's rest this over here for the moment. And let's move over to our bases for just a minute. Because all the work we do on the lids really comes down to how they're going to fit into the base. So until you establish how they're going to fit into the base, there's no cutting or anything else that really matters. The thickness and everything else doesn't really matter until you establish that on here. What I have here is a divider with a little bit of a lip on it. And we're going to knock that down on all 4 of these. And to do that, I will grab my trusty number 62 bevel up low angle jack plane. It's my favorite plane. I love this thing. This is a Wood River. You've probably seen it before if you've watched me. Wood River is the house brand for woodcraft stores. So they have a lot of, quite a bit of Wood River tools. But their hand planes are really nice. I mean, they're, you know, it's not as nice as like a $300 plane maybe, but for 100 and, I don't know, 40, 50 bucks, you get a lot for your money. This thing is really nice. A little shaky thing going on there. Look at that. My blood sugar's low. It's okay. It's supposed to be. I'm on a diet and I'm not eating sugar, so, or carbs or anything else that's evil. I might be able to get away with using my stop here. Let's see. Or actually, for this, let me just get these out of the way. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's get some bench dogs. Pardon me, I'm going to reach right in front of you here. And I'm going to grab a couple of bench dogs. These right here are bench dogs. And they go in my bench like this and like that. So they just sit in the table like this. They just go right in the holes. And then I can press this against there. And now I have room here. Let me grab a couple of, these are kind of my favorite little table clamps. Once again, Craig Tool makes some really cool stuff. These are made for bench dogs. They have a big dial on them. And as you spin this, the little end here pushes out. But they're angled in such a way that they kind of hold in that bench dog. And I can get super close with them. I think I can do this. Let's see. Nope. But never fear, they're very long. So even if they don't seem like they're going to reach, don't worry. We have a fix for that. Because what I will do is take a board and put it in there as a spacer. And now I am really tight in there and it will hold really well. The other thing I need to do is move the fence on my table saw. And I know this because basically I've whacked it more than one time with my hand plane. It kind of sits at the same level as my hand plane. And yeah, it's just if I just move it a little bit, doesn't have to go a lot. If I just move it a little bit out of the way, now it will not interfere with the travel of my plane, because my plane is going to go this way, and I have a tendency to run it and then bang into this fence. So if I get it out of the way, now it's not a big deal. All right, this is really simple. There's not like much to it. You just start knocking wood out of here. There's not a lot of my dogs are going nuts upstairs. They do that from time to time. There's not a lot of wood sticking out. I try to keep these fairly low to keep this process down. Although I do enjoy this. I mean, look at that. Come on, who would? I mean, come on, look at that. It's just so much fun. And I just throw them into the base here just to collect them for the moment. I've seen people that make like gift boxes for wine. You know, for a bottle of wine, they'll make a little gift box, which is really cool. And then what they'll do is they'll just get a long board and they just do a bunch of shavings like this as the cushion padding for the inside. It's very, very eco-friendly and it works really well. All right, we're getting very close now. When I start hearing a little bit of a scraping noise across here, I know I've gone too far. Now it's almost flush on this side, just a little high on this side. And this is not quite there. So I'm gonna concentrate my effort kind of leaning towards this side a little bit. There, now if you heard that noise, you may not have, it just passed over this side. So this side is done. It's flush. This side still has a little bit to go. So what I'm going to do is pull off on this just a little bit because I don't want to really do too much to this side. Okay, I think, there we go. Oops, there we go. All right, this is flush. That's all there is to it. Now we might have to take more off. So I do very minimal on here just to get that down. We have to flip this upside down and put it on the tabletop over there, which is very flat. That's my cast iron top for my saw. And we have to see how flat this is because when I make the rabbet, I want this to be nice, even all the way around, which means that I'm going to be using this surface face down on the router table. So I want this surface to be nice and flat. That's kind of the way we go with that. All right, let me grab the next victim here. And I'm looking for the way the grain runs here so that I can cut the grain in the correct direction to get a much smoother, like really nice. This is like super, it's like I would never, not even have to sand that. It is so smooth when it comes off of my plane. Now I have not sharpened this in a little bit. I'm supposed to get hopefully, my Veritas sharpening guide. Kind of crazy that it takes so long to get. Hopefully it'll ship by mid-April is what they say. I ordered it like almost a month ago. But now right here, there's just a tiny little knot thing right there, and the grain changes direction. So I might have to do a little bit of cleanup right in that. This is super smooth. The grain's running a little different direction right here. It changes, and that's, you know, that's wood. It's not perfectly uniform, but we'll do what we can. Maybe if I get the angle going here. To kind of angle that blade a little bit, it'll do more of a shearing slicing on there, which, yeah, that's a little bit smoother. We are really close right here. Super close. This still is up a little bit. This is pretty much good. So I'm just gonna take some passes from here. Not work it from the edge, but just kind of start it right here. Now we're pretty much there, I think. And because this has a very long sole, it's going to make this pretty flat. It's going to flatten this out, so it should not be too bumpy in here. That's the one thing I like also about using this, is it has a very long sole. It's not like a smoothing plane. Smoothing planes have a much shorter sole, and they kind of ride into bumps and such and are made for smoothing large surfaces. But if you want to flatten a surface, you need something with a much longer sole. Like this, dusty and dirty as it is, this is a jointing plane. I think this is like a number 7 that I got in an antique shop. So it's pretty cool. Miller's Falls. So it's pretty cool. But this is a jointing plane. So if I was going to joint a longer board, I would want something really long like this, because it's applying this whole sole right here as a reference to make things flat. So that's a very cool plane that I picked up for very little at a antique shop. Antique shops can be a great place to find vintage tools, especially if it's an antique shop that doesn't deal in vintage tools. So a lot of the, I'm going to go this way. A lot of the antique shops are actually conglomerates of different vendors, and they have a common place where they will sell their stuff. So they'll have like little booths set up inside one larger antique shop. And sometimes they'll just have these, they'll pick up these things when they go and buy stuff at like a barn or whatever, and they're buying all this old antique stuff. They don't necessarily deal in tools, but they may have tools laying around, in which case you're going to get probably a good deal from that. If you're dealing with somebody who's like, their whole thing is antique tools, you're probably going to pay more of a premium, because they have more of an idea of what these things are worth. And is that, wow. Yeah, well, let's give it a run this way. If it does weird things, we'll flip it around. That's pretty smooth. Okay. Like I said, sometimes it's just really hard to tell about grain direction and what's going to work. That's not bad, though. Not bad at all. We will get this one knocked out pretty quick. This is the third one. So we'll have one more after this. Yeah, if you're looking for a good quality plane, I highly recommend looking at the Wood River. If you can't afford something like a Veritas, which, Veritas makes really, really nice hand tools, but sometimes they're just out of reach of people because of their price, and which is understandable. I mean, I think if you paid for something like this in a Veritas, it'd probably run you $350, I would imagine, somewhere in that neighborhood. Now, sometimes, you're just going to have to bite the bullet and get the one that works. That's good right there, but I'm still just a hair right here. There we go. My router plane that I got is a Veritas, and worth every penny. Just great function. I did a lot of research on that, and a lot of functionality for the money that you spend on it. So sometimes it's worth it to pay the extra money. Sometimes you just don't have the extra money. You just got to get what you can get. But the Wood River stuff, like I said, I found that they are pretty good. Most of their stuff is pretty good. All right, last one. We will check the grain direction. Put it in here. Put our little helper block in here. We're going to clamp this down, and let's run this last one through the plane here. See if we're going to get a smooth cut. Now, okay, so I'm getting a little bit of tear out here, and it's so hard to see. I would show you, but honestly, I don't think you're going to see it in the camera. I'll put it right here, see if we can see it. There is a little, I'm trying to get the light on there. So right in this area right here, I'm getting tear out. And I'm going to try flipping the board around, or flipping the whole base around, so that the board is going to have the grain running in the other direction. And we'll give a couple of passes this way and see if that is going to be a better cut. Now the other thing is I probably need to do just a sharpening on this, but I'm going to try to get through all this without having to whip out the sharpening stones. That feels much better. There we go. And like I said, sometimes it's just the nature of the grain. It's not necessarily flowing great, you know, downhill or uphill. Sometimes it undulates and you just have to deal with it. So that's what we're doing. We're just dealing with it. Just dealing with it. Now this is pretty good. So let me just start. And I'm taking a fairly, this isn't like a super, super thin cut. It's not like, you know, I mean, I can see light through it and it's, you know, I couldn't read through it, but it's pretty thin. So it's not overly aggressive, and I don't like to be overly aggressive with this plane. I have a number 5 plane. If I need to make more aggressive cuts, I use the number 5. It has a different angle on it, and it's a bevel down. So if I need to make bigger cuts, just remove more wood, I'll typically use my number 5. And I use this for really kind of nice, clean, smooth stuff. A little bit on this edge right there. A little bit close. I'm still off a little bit on this. Just a little bit. I'll tell you what, your fingers are probably the best gauge of where you are in your flattening process. I mean, you can tell nuances like a hair's width difference just by using your fingertips, unless you've like screwed up your fingertips. But for most folks, your fingertips are going to be really accurate in determining how flush something is. And for us, that works. Look, we got a whole bunch of stuff in the bottom there. Just dump that into my garbage can over there. All right, I now have these all flushed down. I need to establish how flat this top is, which means I'm going to get stuff out of the way over here so I can use my table saw as a reference. Let me just check my feeds here. Make sure that nobody's commenting or anything. I want to keep up with it if anybody is. Nobody is. We're here all alone, man. It's just us, me and the tools. It's so sad, man. All right, let me get this out of the way. I want to lose that because we're going to need that later. All righty. Now, we did this with the bottoms, and if you were here for that little drill, oh, nice shot. Nice shot. What we're going to do is take this base, and we're going to use this part of my table saw, which is very flat, even side to side. It's very flat. I could also use this portion right here. And we're just going to, well, here, I'll show you. I'm going to set it on here like this. And what we're looking for is any rocking or tipping from corner to corner. Like this is dead solid. Guess what? Dead solid. This one is really flat. So nothing to be done here. Now, I say that, but it's really strange. I do have a little bit of an indent right here. This is slightly lower than this. This whole side is just a hair taller, but I think what the deal is that they're very symmetric. They're very, very accurate, being parallel to each other and being not tipping, you know, like this. And so they've kind of done that. I really need to knock this side down though. Just feeling it. This is a little high right here. I'll hold on to this. Let's go to this one. I like the ones that are more apparent, like, oh yeah, this is really tippy. We'll just knock this off. This one's just got a little bit of rock to it. And a lot of times, that little bit of rock, so I'm looking at these two corners, and that little bit of rock comes from just like a little bit of glue. Yes, I've got a tiny bit of glue right up here, and that is causing that little bit of rocking. That's really easy to take care of. I can actually just run this over top of that. I know I said I don't like to use my planes for glue, but I'm just really, really finely, it was just a little tiny bit. All right, let's see what we got here. I have a little bit, this side is a little high too. You know what, let's go ahead and just take these ends down right here. See what we can get. Let's see what my grain's running this way, because I've got a little glue here too. I hate to do this, but yeah, that's why we clamp. So let's come back here. I'm just gonna run this through really quickly. Now this will probably change the flatness of it, because this was just a hair high, and it is still a little high right here. And I'm just taking this down until it's flush right here. I'm not affecting the sides. I'm just taking this end down because it was kind of high. The other side, not bad. But I'm pretty sure now when I put this in the on the tabletop, that what we're going to get is something that is a little bit more tippy than it was. Let's see here. Yeah, see, now we've got a lot more tip going on because I took wood away. And that doesn't surprise me at all. What I'm going to do is look for the largest area of tipping. It's these two corners right here. So what can I look at in terms of fixing this? I'm going to try this corner and fix this corner. And I need to do that a couple different ways. One is I can take the wood down that one? No, this one. There we go. I can take the wood down right here and try to get this portion of it shaved down, because this area is a little high. What I could do is maybe start my plane up here and then run it down and then be shaving off down this way. That requires me to actually flip this, take my little clamps out here. I have to move this stuff over. I need more clamping space, more room. All right. And I'm also going to get my pencil so I don't forget what I'm working on here and just kind of make some marks on the end there. I'm not going to attack both corners. I want to try to really finesse this in and do it with as little shaving of wood as possible. They were really close before, but because I did have that side these ends were a little proud of the side rails, I needed to knock it down. There was just no way around it. So now this hopefully will be, I'm going to start from here and just start taking some passes. I know it's just this corner, but I want to gradually work into that. I don't want to just plane right here, because that's going to leave little dips and stuff. I want this to try to be as smooth as it can be, but I don't want to start all the way down at the other end here either. So I'm just going to work it like this, and then I will work this across like this. I can actually work this one this way. That's a little smoother. There we go. It's a little smoother. Maybe make one more pass. All right, that might do it. Let's just try it and see. So remembering where my corner was, it was this corner down here. So this corner right here was tipping, and it's now very flat. All right, nice. Like it when something works, comes together. All right, and in reality, let me show you. What I'm looking at is to just not have any wood in any of these joints that is proud and sticking up, but I want this whole thing to be flat. And sometimes it's just a balancing act between the different surfaces on there, but that seems to be pretty good. And I only need to do this for the tables that have the compartment, because I'm going to be, like I said, I'm going to be running a dado joint in here. So, we're raining? Yes, we're raining. All right, raining outside. Well, I knew that was going to happen. All right, let us see. I'm just looking right now to see what I've got here in terms of wood sticking up, because I should probably, before I go and worry about checking to see if it's flush, I might as well go ahead and get these sides knocked down so that they are flush with the sides. Let me see which grain direction we're running this way. I'm going to do this one right here. It's not much, but it is just a hair tall on this edge. So I'm going to run this one through and just try to remove as little wood as possible. That's pretty good. Not bad. Now I have a little bit of chip right there, so I don't want to. There we go. All right, that end and that end right there and right there are very flush. This one, do I need to flip the board around? No, I think I'm good right here. Okay. That's pretty close. And by running the plane off of here, I'm using this as a reference. Instead of running it, I could run it this way, but I'm using this as my reference surface. So the back of the plane is sitting on here as I run across. And that kind of gives it a nice flat reference to work on, and it's not going to let it tip. All right, that is still off a little bit. Okay. And we're still just a little bit that end. There we go. I think we're good. Okay, let's go ahead and set this up on the table and see where we're at with squareness for this one. See if we're nice and flat. I say square, I mean it's all kind of, you know, pick your word, whatever you want. That is not going to get better than that. I'm going to move this again. I just keep moving things out of the way here. But I need to substitute this one. And, ooh, raining hard. All right, let's see if we've got any high areas here. This one is definitely high. This one is just a little bit. We just did this one, so we know this one's good. All right, which way is my grain? Oh, this is one of those weird ones, so I'm not sure which way this wants to run grain-wise. I'm going to start with a pass in this direction. I like to plane obviously away from myself. It's much easier. But let's see. Oh, so I can feel that tearing sensation as I go through there. Not great. So I'm going to flip this around, and we will try it from this side. And yeah, so I got some tear out here and here. And like I said, sometimes it's just hard to tell with the direction of the grain. So but that is much smoother. That's why I wanted to make one pass before I really got into it and started tearing that wood up, because it's still salvageable right here. Okay. All right. Now that's good. Just giving it a couple little cleanup passes there. All right, that side's good. Let's do the other side here. Let's see this one. We're gonna have to flip it around again, hopefully. This is the side I need to do. And then this one is just a little high as well. We will check the ends on these. And then we'll throw it on the table, see how flat we got. And we're right there on this one. This one is still just a tiny bit. So there we go. That is perfect. I mean, that is, it feels like one piece of wood all the way across, even on that joint. And that's what I'm shooting for. But let's see if we have to make any corrections now that we've gotten those edges shaved down. Put it up here on our table. How are we looking here? Okay, this one has some tip. This one's got a little tipping, which means, basically it means that one or both of these corners are a little higher than the other two. And the easy way to do this is you can either work on one corner or both corners. This, I might do both corners because I might just take a super light pass on both corners, and that might be enough. Instead of working a lot of wood off of one corner, do super light passes on both corners, and that might be enough to really settle it. That was a little bit more wobble than I like. And the bigger the wobble, the more wood you have to remove. That's just kind of the way it is. So I'm make sure it's down. Let's see here. All right, let's start here. And just, oh, that's not the way I want that to go. So I'm going to work here. And I need to, that was not the way I wanted that to go, but it's the way it is. All right. So I got some down on that side. And before I move on, I still have the wobble. I'm going to go back to this other corner here and check it. You know what? That fixed it. So there you go. That's flat, flush, nice. The only thing we have to do now, that first one, I bailed on doing this one because it felt flat on there, but I hadn't trimmed down these edges yet. And I was like, I know that's going to be an issue. So let's get these trimmed down. And the problem with these are that the sides are what is actually, the sides are what is taller than the end pieces on here. So I need to, that's why this one was last. All right, I'm gonna probably have to run this down this way and take a length. Get this over here, there we go. Get this locked in and take some longer strokes off of the edge of this thing. Like that. And I can hear it as I pass across these perpendicular pieces. You can hear it kind of scraping as I go across them. That's not too bad. It's actually nice and flush now on this end. Let's see which way we need to go over here. I think we can just leave the base oriented this way and go this way. That's pretty flush. This one's still high right here. So until I can get this one closer. And we're almost there. All right. And then I need to clean these edges up here because I took wood off of each of the edges here. And yeah, you don't want to leave it wood off the edges and then nothing off the top, because then it will rock on those. So just like that, across. Do this one as well. Just across there. And this one, I don't think I can go that way. I think I need to flip it for this side. And then I'll have to go through and check it again for flatness. Once I get all these sides done, I'm going to check it again for flatness and probably have to come back and make some corrections again. But at least at that point in time, all of my joinery is flat and flush to each other. And then any corrections I make will be minor, hopefully. Let's see. There you go. Look at that. I love it when things actually work the way they're supposed to. It doesn't happen very often. But sometimes things do work out. All right. Well, we got 1220. We're doing pretty good here. We've got these down. We've got the lids and the clamps. So we could do one of two things from this point. We can make the rabbet joint in all of these, which is pretty fast to do. It's a pretty quick operation. And you know, the one thing I didn't do, even though this does not have a compartment in it, I am just gonna get all this stuff out of the way here. I'm just gonna check this one to make sure that my stuff is good here, and I will just clean these up. These pieces are just a hair higher than the side rails, but that should be a quick and easy cleanup. And let's see if I can actually, can I stick this in here? Hey, look at that. There we go. That's nice. All right. We're just going to clean this one up while I have it here. This one is, I keep calling this my mistake. It's not really, well, it is a mistake. But we are going to make this into something cool when I'm done. That's what I keep telling myself. That's what I tell myself. All right. But for now, we're just going to get these edges kind of flushed up here. It doesn't take much. They're not off by much. Pretty good. There we go. Let's do the other side here. Just going to pop these out. Hopefully, yep, this is the right grain direction. And we'll get this one done here. Yeah, we're definitely going to have to do something a little different with this one. But I've got an idea in my head, and I think it's going to work out. And depending on how it turns out, this might be a new base for my wife, which she won't complain about. Kind of hurts the, kills the profit margin there a little bit. There's no birthdays or anything coming up either. Dang, Valentine's is done. All right. Everybody's flat and flush and hand planed down for the moment where it needs to be. This piece right here, as I was saying, I could take this and you can, I don't know if you can see or not. You see that these stick up higher. So that if I was running my plane on here, it would hit those. That's why I have this thing, because it goes all the way across. It spans, so it gives more support going all the way across. But B is that it sits down below the level, and my plane can run all the way across it and not bump into it. Just for giggles, just gonna do like this, just a few times. Creates a lot of shavings, but it is getting cleaned up here. And like I said, I could take this over to the jointer and just run a quick pass over the jointer, but I don't want to mess with my thickness too much here on this. But this is kind of what goes into doing this and getting this down to the size that I need. It's a lot of muscle, a lot of work. I could even, because this is a long piece of wood, I could actually pull out that longer joiner. So nasty and dirty and dusty. But I could pull this longer joiner out here, and it has a lot of reference surface, but at this point in time, it's one of those where you get, when you're close, you kind of want to pull this thing out. So I don't normally get this one up. Plus I need to probably take a little bit deeper bite. Just a little deeper bite. That might be too much. Woo! Ugh. It needs to be sharpened. Whew, that is a bite. I'm going to move this stool out of the way because dang. Now, once those get flattened out, it's not that big a deal. But, whew, this bad boy. Yeah, I definitely need to sharpen this. That's a workout. That's a workout. But anyway, there's a difference between those two. Like I said, this needs a sharpening for sure. But you can sort of see that now is cleaning up. Like all these cut marks on this piece do not show up over here because we've basically taken some of the wood off here. We haven't gotten down to this level though, which is why all of these are still there. We still are just a little high on there. It's actually not bad surface-wise. Like I said, we did this side with the joiner. So I could sit there and run that plane over it a lot more, which I'm sure you're just really dying to see that, right? Come on, do some more. We want to see more planing. Think you want to see more planing. You don't really know you want to see more planing. And I might have to just give this a sharpen out. I probably should be taking a slightly bigger bite out of this. Let me just move this mouth open just a hair. Open that mouth up with this just a tiny bit, which allows it to take a little bit bigger bite. If you want to get in shape, get yourself some hand tools, because I'm telling you, it's a good workout. If you're going up here and pushing this thing across some wood, you can get a workout. No doubt about it. So smooth, and yet so far away from this side. Really, what you need to do is kind of work your way over, because each slice you take leaves a little bit more of a raised surface next to it, and then you move the plane over and it takes it off. So you're working it over kind of incrementally, and it just gives you a little bit more surface to bite on as you go. See, this side is nothing. This side's kind of scooped, so I'm getting cuts here. but the blade's running above this, so it's not even touching this yet until I get this side knocked down far enough. It's not gonna cut into this part. But because this is all the way surfaced, I need to always start at the end so that I maintain a nice flat cut all the way across. Ugh, so much work. All right. I'm not going to subject you to any more of that. I will, because I'm going to put a sharpening on this. It needs to be sharpened. Whoops, knocking down boards. It needs to be sharpened a little bit. And that's the thing too, is when you're using your planes, I'm out of wind, out of breath. When you're using your planes, you'll start to know when you're losing that good cut, when you have to really muscle the plane and work harder at it. That's when you sort of know that it's time to get the stones out and give it a little sharpen. So instead of boring you with that, I'm going to, when I get my new Veritas thing, I'll do a whole sharpening day. Not a whole day, but I'll go through the whole process so you can see how that works. And that'll be hopefully middle of the month. But what we can do is we can cut rabbits. So back to the Wascally Wabbits over here. We have our setup tool. I have a piece of wood somewhere around here that I can use for a test cut. Actually, I just used it for my end block. Where did I put that piece of wood? I'll find it. Anyway, we can do that. We can do some. So let me. I'll tell you what. I made a mess, like a mess. Let me get rid of some of this stuff. Now, the nice thing about using a hand plane, you don't get a lot of airborne dust with a hand plane. I don't say you won't get any, but it's pretty minimal. And most of the time, if you got a nice sharp plane, you're just getting shavings. And they do a pretty good job of just staying put. All right, I'm going to vacuum this up really quick. All right, because I'm going to move my laptop over here, and we are going to be setting up the table over here, which is the router table. We're going to set that up for doing some rabbit cutting. And yeah, that should be pretty easy to do. I need to have a, move these over, because we will be working with these. And, you know, I'm going to set them over to the side over here. Pardon my vacancy for just a moment. I'm just getting them out of the way so that when I do switch, you will have a better view, because I'm going to set up a camera view just for you to watch. And let's go ahead and switch to it now. There we go. And let's point you over at the router table like this. Like this. Doesn't want to go right away. There we go. And I can zoom that in a little bit. Okay, we're going to be working over there. I'll move this fence back a little bit. There we go. Lots of room. And you know what? I'll even go. Let's go see if this view over here would be even better. I'm going to check this camera out. Yeah, this is not a bad view right here. Not bad either. So, got two views here to choose from. And I need to get my tool right here. And we are going to loosen this tabletop piece right here, unlock. And sometimes you have to kind of tip this thing. There it goes. Get it out. My rabbit tool, bit is still in the router. I just lowered it down below the surface because I knew I was going to be needing this one again. We can raise this up. Now what I need to do is get the appropriate cover that allows the bit to come up but does not hit the bit and is not too far away from the bit, so that it provides the most support for the wood that is going to be passed next to the bit. So that's pretty good right there. All right, what was that? That was the 25 millimeter opening, which is about 1 inch. 25.4, I think, is 1 inch. So it's about 1 inch. All right. The other thing I need to do is figure out how deep I want these to be. Remember, I said that these lids are only going to be about 1/4 of an inch thick. Thick, yes. Which means I need a rabbet that's about 1/4 of an inch deep. I have my little Craig tool set up here for 1/4 of an inch on the end here. You can see right here. That little lip sticks out 1/4 of an inch. And I can raise this until it is about 1/4 of an inch. The other thing I could do, actually this is kind of cool, is I could get my marking gauge to scribe a line onto a piece of wood, a scrap piece of wood. So that should be 1/4 of an inch. Eh, it's a little shy. Hang on a second, let me do this. There we go. That's 1/4 of an inch. And I just need a block of wood to use as a sacrificial lamb here. What did I do with that board that we used to block things off with? That was like the perfect board too. I don't know what happened to that, unless it got stuck over here. It might have. Hang on a second. Oh, there it is. There it is. Yeah, this is the one that we did the test on for the other rabbeting operation. So you can see this already has one rabbet edge in there. We're going to do another one. What I'm going to do is scribe a line just on here with my tool, and then use that line to set up the depth of the cut. But it's easier for me to see if I do it this way. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is just raise this until the blade, this is not plugged in, by the way, but I want the blade to hit that line, and that will be my cutout line right there. And then what I can do is actually run a test pass on here, check the depth, and then we will see if we are exactly where we need to be, and if not, we can make some slight adjustments. I'm going to lower that back down. All right, I definitely need my ears for this because my table, it'd be kind of noisy. Routers are just noisy creatures. And I'm just going to put this air up here. Even though it doesn't do much, it does a little bit when I have the air running up there. But this stuff just flies everywhere. So when I do the nice thing is when I do the lids, I put the lid over top of this, and then all the shavings and dust is self-contained inside here. But that being said, I'm going to pull out my, I haven't been doing a lot of stuff in the dust today, but this is pretty dusty. So I'm going to turn my fan on and just my air filter. Check out the air filter video on my channel on YouTube. If you haven't seen how I made this thing, it's pretty easy. And turn this on. Suck some bad dust through there. Let me plug this in. And we can make a test cut, and we can get all of these rabbets cut pretty quickly. Because like I said, once you have this thing going, it's pretty easy. There's not much left to do. All right, dust on. All right, it helps if you plug it into the correct tool. That was into my sander. Now we're in the router. Okay, let's try that again. Thankfully, all of that dust will be captured inside of the storage compartment, not throwing it around my shop. But what we can now do is check. So if this is going to be my rabbet for the lid would be actually this way. I need to check that this is 1/4 inch. And it is exactly 1/4 inch. If not just I mean, wow, it's pretty close. We'll just say yes, good enough. So now moving on, we can grab one of our bases here and start working with the bases and getting those cuts made. You want to make sure because I'm going to be routing the inside of this compartment right here. So this compartment's going to get routed out. And let me switch over a little bit closer. I'm going to be routing out this compartment right here. You want to make sure that you're traveling in the appropriate direction for this router bit to make the right cut. And the router bit is turning this way. So it's turning counterclockwise. So when I put this in here, I want to push this back piece of wood forward into that and then travel this way and then just work all the way around the box like that. You don't want to go the other way because then you're going with the rotation of the blade and wonky, weird, bad things could happen. The other thing that I do is I just kind of find the center and I just lower this down like that. We can start it up and off we go. All right, and we are left with a really nice rabbet that runs the perimeter of this little area. There's some slight, grab a light piece of sandpaper. There's some slight little fluffy shavings that just, you really lightly pass a piece of sandpaper and it just cleans up all the little fuzz like that. But you can see that is a really nice rabbet around the inside, and that's going to be where our lid sets inside. And yeah, that turned out really nice. So let's go ahead and keep going here. I'm just going to start grabbing these things, and in between each one I'll clean the dust out, and then I'll just move on to the next one. But I'm just going to go non-stop here until the other 3 are done. So let's go ahead and get moving. Ooh. Okay. All right, we had one little fatality here. Okay, not a fatality, but one bad little chip out happened. It's not ruined. It's not, horrible. It's just that that's the problem with a rabbit bit. Sometimes you get these little chip out things going on here. Let me clean this out a little bit and see if I can get a closer camera view and show you what I'm talking about. Um, the you kind of run this risk with a rabbiting bit because the basically the operation it performs is really kind of digging into this wood. Actually, I need to hang on just a second. For whatever reason, missed this little section right here. Clean that piece. There we go. But it is prone to getting some chip out, and I saved this piece of wood right here so you can see that's a pretty substantial piece of wood that came out of this thing. And it's hard to see in here, but right off of this corner, I think you can see it right there, is where that little piece of chip out came from right there. I don't think I could put that back in, but I don't really need to because that's on the inside of the drawer or of the piece. But just what happens is when that bit is coming out, sometimes it just grabs a whole bunch of wood and flips it out of there. That's savable. It's not bad, and it wouldn't even be noticed probably. So I don't have any heartache over that. But it is one of those things that can happen, and it's why I'm really usually try to be very careful and go slowly. The one thing I did not do that time, which, hindsight being what it is, I probably should have done, was to make a light pass and then go in and take the full pass. Sometimes I'm just feeling my oats and I don't do the light pass, and then I regret it later, like now, but that's all right. We're just gonna clean this out. Just gonna clean it out and switch cameras and do all that good stuff. So I'm just cleaning the fuzz out that the bit leaves, little bits of fuzz around the perimeter. This is really, though, I mean, I find this to be so much nicer. I see people just leave the cutout and then place a lip inside, or like a secondary lid on their covers that just fits the inside, but then their whole cover is on top of the base and not. I just find this to be much more elegant, nice. It's flush, it looks nice, it's flat, and it provides a great work surface for the table, or for the sewing machine. You could use it as a table surface. It's the nice thing about my bases is that you can flip them around. You can have the machine working this way with the sewing part right here, but then you have this nice flat area in front, and that affords you room to move your fabric around and things like that. So to me, that was kind of the whole point of this thing. When you just have it in the machine, you probably have it flipped the other way, but when you're sewing, you can turn it this way and use this as a work surface. And so it adds some more utility to the base. That's my thought. Anyway. All right, we're making some good progress here. Where we are now is having to cut these lids to fit in here. Pardon me, I have to check. Okay. So my son says the milk has gone chunky. Not really. He needs to drink it more often. Anyway, we need to make the lids here for this, and that is going to be obviously from, let me get this out of the way. Move, computer, move. And let me unplug this because I don't like having that router plugged in. Oh my goodness, there we go. I'm gonna have to finish flattening these, and then what I'm gonna do is size them to fit. And they don't fit. It's not like I can just take an edge here and put it in, because I want this book matching. I want this part of the book match to be centered. That means that I have to find out how big this is and then equally cut off on each side so that it perfectly lines up in the middle of this. I know it's a lot of work, or it's more work anyway. It's not a lot, but it's more work. But to me, it just looks nicer. If I just made this from one flat piece of wood, not book matched, then yeah, I would just figure out how wide this thing is, cut a side off, and cut it to length, and then we just round the corners and we're done. This is just one of those things that I think adds a special touch to my bases and stuff that you won't find on other stuff out there. And I think I talked a little while ago about, you know, if you find a product to make and you're not the only person in the world making it, find a way to make yours stand out from others. I have a couple of things that I do. You know, there are other people who are making this base with a side compartment. I didn't invent this. They started with the sewing machines. I just made it so that it was larger, so that it had this really nice lid, and other people aren't doing it that way, or they're just leaving it open, like just an open compartment in the side, which, you know, hey, if that's all you want, that's great. But if you want one that is pretty, and I keep grabbing the one with no logo, but with a logo and with this really beautiful book match lid on the side compartment and stuff, you're going to come to me. You're going to pay a little bit more money, but you're paying for a quality item. So like I said, if you're making something, make it unique, make it yours. Find something that you can do to just make it stand apart from other people's stuff. Even if it's like, I keep coming back to cutting boards. Cutting boards are such they're ubiquitous. Every woodworker has to make a cutting board. It's a rite of passage. Some people like it so much they sell them and they take their game up. But find a way to make those cutting boards yours and unique. And if somebody sees that and goes, oh, I know whose cutting board that is. You know, that's a specific handle shape that they came up with that only they use in their cutting board. Or, oh, you know, that's a pattern or a style where they always cut the corner off or whatever. Find something that just separates you from the rest of everybody else. And if you don't believe me, just go look on Pinterest and look up end grain cutting boards on Pinterest and see if you can see anything that's unique as opposed to the ones that just look like every other one, you know, where it looks like a chessboard with just pieces, you know. The chessboard ones, I mean, they work fine, but there's a million of them out there. You know, what sets yours apart? Look at the ones that say, ooh, you know, the ones that spark your interest. They did something to that board, whether it was the pattern that they created or the shape or something. They did something that caught your eye and made you take notice. That's what you need to do for the stuff that you're making. Make it so that it stands out. If I see one of mine, if I'm looking through like one of the forums on Facebook for the vintage sewing machines, and I see one of them, I'll know my base like that. I can identify my bases in a heartbeat just scrolling through. If somebody has a picture of their machine and one of my bases, I absolutely know it's my base. I can tell it apart from all the others, not just because they're my babies, but because they are unique and they stand out, and they're not stand out in a way that is like, ooh, that's too much. They're separated from the basic ones. If this was all I did, put a couple blocks in the corners and said, there you go, I would kind of blend in with everybody else. And that's not what I want. I want my stuff to be high quality. I want it to stand out. I want people to look at it and go, ooh, where did you get that? That's awesome. And then they come and ask me, hey, can I get one? And I'll say, yeah, when I get around to it. That's a different story. Anyway, yeah, so make it unique. I mean, kind of circle the wagon back around to where we started. That's why I do these book match ones, and I have to cut equally off of each side because you can see that they are wider than that compartment. And in order to get that seam right through the middle, I have to kind of equally take pieces of wood off of each side, which takes a little bit more work. I do have a ruler that helps me a lot in that, and I'll show that to you when we get ready to do these. In the meantime, I need to get these flattened down at least to the point where they will fit in here comfortably. These are, like I said, this is about, let me see how thick this is. I think it's about 5, yeah, these are about 5/16. So they're about a 1/16 of an inch thicker than they need to be. This one is anyway. The other one that's gluing up right now, I'm not sure about the thickness on that. It's probably a little thicker than this one. But they are thicker than they need to be so that I can put them in here, get them cut to size, put them in here, and then once again, using the plane, I can take them down and make them flush to the surface. More work, but to me, it's worth it. It is more work, but in the end, I think it's a lot more, a lot prettier, you know, sets it apart. Yeah. That being said, I'm gonna have to get this flat. We've got these done. I need to get the other one out of the clamp either later today or early tomorrow morning. I'll take it out and then get that one flattened down. By the time you come back on Friday, hopefully you'll come back and visit me on Friday. When you come back on Friday, we will take these that are already flattened to the workable size. We'll get rid of all the rough cut, get them kind of shaved down, and then we will measure, we will cut, we will round the corners, we'll fit them in here, and then we can start shaving the tops down to make them flush with this. What else do we need to do here? We've got really 2 more big operations to do on these. One is the corners. We will do a 1-inch round over on the corners right here. So I have a bit that I use for that, and there's a special way I set it up on the router table in order to keep myself from getting chip out when I do these. It's just a way that I've kind of learned to do it over the year or 2 that I've been doing these, that I actually clamp a piece of wood onto the edge when I run it through the router, I clamp it this way. There we go. So it would clamp this way. So when the router is running this way, all of this wood at the end, if I didn't have this piece of wood here, all this wood at the end would just blow out because there's nothing supporting it. So I've learned that if I clamp a board against that edge and then I run that 1-inch round over on here, it's supported by this extra block of throwaway wood, and that supports the cut and gives me a really nice round over. So 1-inch round over on each corner. Then I need to make, and this is another kind of difficult thing to do, is to make my corner blocks, my corner braces that the machine will set on. That entails there's a lot of measuring to make sure I get those corners cut just to the right depth so that the machine sets at the right level inside here. And it's a little tricky. And the other thing is I have to find, you know, pieces of wood that are thick enough for me to use for corner pieces. I can't use a 3/4, it's too thin. I have this piece, which is 7/8. I might be able to use this. I'm gonna look to see if I have a thicker piece. It does not need to be cherry. It can be oak or something else that's thick. So I'll look through my scrap. I've pretty much gone through stuff. I need to buy some thick stock just to use for making corners. But they're triangular. So therein lies a whole nother issue, which I have to, you know, put my table saw blade at a 45 bevel and make cuts, which I find a little scary sometimes, just a little nerve-wracking. And then, yeah, but it's a thing. All right, where are we at? We're at 1 o'clock. We will do a short one today because I'm really kind of at that crossroad where I need to let that one set and I need to sharpen my stuff to finish this. And I really don't want to take anything else on today. So I think we will call it here. It's a little bit of short. I mean, what is it? Hour and a half? 11, 12, 1? No, 2 hours. So we're 2 hours in. It's a good day, right? My day's not done, but the shop time is. So thank you again for stopping in if you did. Or if you're watching this at a later time, kudos. Thank you. That's awesome. Remember, if you're on Facebook, if you want to follow the page, JR's Wood Shop, that would be awesome. I post pictures and other stuff on there as well, woodworky stuff. So it kind of is a catch-all. My live stream goes there, but other stuff that I do, and you don't have to, you know, be a friend. You can just follow the page. So that's awesome. Twitch.tv/JR's Wood Shop. If you want to go there and watch on Twitch, and then hop over and watch your favorite gamer, you know, Nick Merckx or, you know, Tim the Tapman or whatever, you know, you need a little break from them, you want to hop over, watch some woodworking, I'm here for you. If you're on YouTube, YouTube is my main channel that I spit this out to. Jeff Revell, so youtube.com/Jeff Revell and JEFFREVELL, you'll find me. And if you would, I'd appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, whatever works for you. And hit the bell if you want to know when I'm going live again. If you hit that bell and hit it for like all notifications, as soon as I go live, you'll get a little ding. I usually click on about 5 minutes before I start the live stream up. So if you do that, you'll get a little notification beforehand. You can jump in. I'm here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, unless I'm not, but I try to be. So I will see everybody Friday. Have a great rest of your week. If you're out here in the East Coast, stay dry. If you're elsewhere, be safe, wear your mask. All right, love each other, be good to each other. I will see you here on Friday. Take care.